take projection.
What is going on, guys? This is a short little mini episode of the Alabama Slam today. It is just me, Patrick, because I missed the podcast recording on Wednesday, but I still wanted to give you guys my thoughts. I'm only going to kind of focus on Full Gear here. Obviously, you guys listen to Corey and Steven when it came to all the WWE stuff. We'll have Survivor Series coming up this weekend, and I fully anticipate that I'll be a part of the podcast next Tuesday. I'm stuck in Nashville all day on Wednesday. Just a quick hitter. Nashville, kind of a shit city a little bit, right? Like, listen, I'm a huge Tennessee Titans fan. That's about the only thing that city has going for me. I'm not a fan of modern country music. I'm not a fan of bedazzled cowboy boots and cowboy hats. Just a little overrated. It's become like a party city, and the traffic is absolutely horrendous, which is what I got stuck in and missed the recording. Nevertheless, here we are with a little short mini episode riding solo. And let's just get into it, what happened at Full Gear. Listen, this AEW pay-per-view was kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly of everything that I love about AEW. And listen, even when it's bad, at least it's interesting, and the wrestling is absolutely top-notch across the board for the most part. And there's only one match that we're going to be talking about when we talk about AEW Full Gear 2023, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But I thought the opener of the show with Darby, Edge, Sting going up against the Patriarchy, which is just an absolutely fantastic name for Christian's new group. This was the perfect kind of opener. We got the cool visual of the baby faces all having their faces painted like Sting, and Adam Copeland looked the coolest out of all of them. Christian Cage with the children's choir at the beginning is just the perfect chef's kiss to what is already what I think is the best character in AEW. Christian Cage as this father figure, the head of the Patriarchy, bringing Nick Wayne under his wing has just been an absolute joy to watch. Christian, somehow in his mid-40s, is doing the absolute best work of his career, which is kind of crazy. If you think about all the legendary matches that guy's had with the TLC matches and all throughout WWE and TNA, to be at this age doing what he's doing is really, really phenomenal. And we got some cool spots in this match. I mean, listen, I say this every time when I talk about Darby. He's here for a good time, not for a long time. That chokeslam on the apron was no joke, but that is sort of his gimmick. And, me and Steven have talked about this quite a lot. Steven has talked about, he thinks you should kind of rein some of these guys in physically from performing some of kind of the dangerous moves because they get hurt. And listen, there is a huge injury factor involved when you are wrestling at the caliber that these guys are wrestling at and are taking the risk that these guys are taking. But I've always been under the assumption that, you have to just let these guys be who they are. And who Darby is he is a stunt man. And I don't think that that's a negative thing to say about him. That's what is unique to his character that gets him over. So he takes those huge bumps on the apron like that. He's also, I think, in modern wrestling, the very best guy at fighting from underneath. Like a lot of baby faces, when the heat is getting put on them by the heel, a lot of times they just sit there and they kind of take it. There's not a lot of selling in modern day wrestling too. That's a critique a lot of people had. Darby, he throws little jabs. He tries to fight back. He gets cut off. He looks like he's just physically getting his ass whooped. And when you can sell to the level that Darby can sell, you'll bring anybody watching that match is going to get involved in it, right? It's gonna heighten the stakes when you can sell like that. And obviously it's cool just to see Sting still doing this thing, still jumping off of the apron on top of guys at 60-something years old. Obviously, it's the last time he's going to wrestle in front of that LA crowd. And man, just what a career that guy has had. And as we get closer to Revolution and what is seemingly going to be his last match, I'm sure we'll get more into the more into the icon that is Sting. And then for Adam Copeland, listen, it continues his feud with Christian. Obviously, he never got his hands on Christian, which is a smart way to play this. Christian escaped through the crowd with his TNT title and keeping that feud going on. I mean, this is just entertaining stuff across the board. Perfect way to open the match. I probably won't hit on all the matches here in Full Gear as we go through, just the ones that I kind of thought stood out the most. And you kind of heard Corey and Steven's take on what I'm going to talk about next. The Toni Storm Hikaru Shida match, just kind of not executed well for what it was, right? There was the plate spot. There was the cane spot where Luther's not in the right spot to grab it. And she actually does hit Toni Storm. The ref doesn't say anything. Like, those are the kinds of things that make you a little crazy when you're watching AEW, because you're like, damn, that if you could just tighten that stuff up, you'd be a lot better off. And I mean, yeah, the plate spot, it's clearly just hanging out of her tights, or you could see it through her tights, and the referee doesn't say anything, counts the pin anyway. Like, yeah, not great to see. I thought the booking, though, was right. We talked about this. I don't think Toni needs the women's title, but I think the women's title needs Toni right now, because she is the hottest thing in that division. And for as much as I like Hikaru Shida, it seems like every time she wins the title, somebody comes and upstages her, right? Like, if you'll remember, her title, or her second title reign, I think, or maybe her first one, coincided with the rise of, like, Jamie Hayter. And Jamie eventually beats her for the title. And here we go. She wins the title again, and Toni Storm is now there to usurp her. So, I mean, Sheeta's a great worker. She's got a place in that division, but, I mean, this is Toni Storm's time. You hope that they kind of clean up some of that stuff. Some of the gimmicky stuff that Toni's going to use in her matches, I think they'll get better at that stuff over time. Manipulating the ref, that sort of thing. That thing might just take time to iron that out, but I thought it was the right call there. A match that I really dug, Orange Cassidy versus Jon Moxley, was fantastic. And I think, surprisingly, I think the right person won. I think Orange Cassidy should have kept this title. I love the story between these two guys because it's so simple, right? Like, Orange had this run, right? 35 and 1, right? He has all these title defenses. And who's the one guy he loses to? He loses to Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley takes the title. And then you remember Moxley gets injured. They got to call an audible. Ray Phoenix wins. And through all that kind of like up in the air game planning, like the title goes back to Orange Cassidy, which I thought was the right call. But then Cassidy, rightly so, feels that I'm not the actual real champion until I beat the guy that beat me. And that's what this whole story between the two of them has been about. Like, Orange Cassidy, in the sense of, saying to himself and saying to the audience, like, this doesn't mean anything until I beat you. Like, I have to beat you. And becoming obsessive almost, which is a play on his character. His character has evolved really beautifully since when he first came in AEW as being just a pure comedy act to now, yeah, it's still comedy, but when he needs to ratchet it up and turn on the intensity like he had to at Full Gear, he can do it, and it's believable, and he's a fantastic worker. And, for a guy like Jon Moxley, obviously he is still insanely over with the crowd. He's one of the biggest stars in that company. And I know in Wednesday's podcast, Steven talked about Moxley being a top star and should be protected, and he thought that Moxley should have beat Cassidy. I actually think this is sort of evidence of Moxley being a top star. Like, he is a rare kind of top guy where he can go down to the underneath card a little bit and help put a guy like Orange Cassidy over. And then it doesn't take a lot of build till you can build him right back up to, the main event level scene or whatever you want to have him do. Like Moxley has earned kind of a bulletproof status within that company. And with AEW's presentation of their product being more sport-like, like this, I think these kinds of upsets, if that's what you want to call it, it kind of makes sense to me. So I wasn't offended at all by the booking. I thought the right guy won. I thought the match was hard hitting, was executed well. I love Moxley walking through all the Superman punches until he can't, right? Until the Superman punches just put him on his ass. And, you know, these two guys are going to continue their rivalry. You know, you can put them back in a match 6 months from now, 8 months from now, and they're going to have a history there with each other. And so, yeah, this was really great. The women's three-way match, Statlander, Sky Blue, Julia Hart. I think the right person won in that too. It gives Julia Hart something to hang her hat on. You know, her evolution of her character has been told really well these last few months. And look, you know, Sky Blue and Julia are the future of that women's division. They're both, I think, in their early 20s. And both of them, the amount that they have progressed and gotten better over this time, like, you just want to bank on that. You want to bank on that improvement. I think Sky Blue is going to be a huge star in AEW if she stays. I also could see her jumping ship to WWE at some point. Like, I think she has like a superstar, like an Alexa Bliss, but better in the ring type of quality to her that I think is going to get her over. And Julia Hart, with her, you know, being a part of the House of Black, her character has evolved. And, you know, they did bring this up in Wednesday's podcast. It is kind of weird that House of Black has like been presented as sort of this monstrous force, and the only person in that group that has a belt is Julia Hart. A little weird, but you got to think that might course correct itself over here in the next couple months. You know, I won't talk about this that much, but there's the Continental Classic that is going on that apparently is going to be somebody's going to be a damn Triple Crown champion with the new championship belt in Ring of Honor, like blah, 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 whatever. That could be something that like Malachi could win, or Buddy Matthews or Brody King or somebody. So, yeah, I think House of Black will get back to its dominating force pretty soon. And for Statlander, like, listen, as great as Statlander is in the ring, this reign of hers really didn't do anything. There's not a lot of memorable moments. And, you know, this is kind of what she probably is there for. It's why she's the TBS champion, right? Not the AEW Women's Champion. Like, it is kind of a television title, mid-card title, and that's unfortunately where I think Statlander is going to be. As much as I like her, as much as she's great in the ring, I don't see her having the type of potential that Julia Hart or Sky Blue could have. The ladders match with all the tag teams, I thought that was entertaining as hell too. Crazy spots. I mean, for as chaotic as what these multi-tag team matches can be in AEW, like, this is kind of their bread and butter. That is sort of their calling card. And they just have action all across the board. Roosh was way over with that LA crowd than what I thought he was going to be, which I think if you're Tony Khan, that's something you need to pay attention to. Like, there is sort of just a energy about Roosh that I'm sure when you're in a live crowd, you kind of just have to respond to. But, you know, it's not the time to take off the titles from Ricky Starks and Big Bill. Both of those guys are doing tremendous work right now. Big Bill is so good in this role as being Ricky's heater and his enforcer. And, of course, you know, we've talked ad nauseum about how much potential we think Ricky Starks has as being a top guy in that company. And like Steven mentioned on the podcast Wednesday, you know, him going up against the Golden Jets, Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho, like, that's what those tag team titles are being used for right now, is to put Ricky Starks and to have fans talk about him the same way they talk about Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega in that company. And so I think that's a great booking decision. I think that's a great use of those titles. And flashing forward, the Golden Jets versus the Young Bucks. This match was what it was too. Like, we got all the hits from all these guys. Placed a little oddly on the card coming after Swerve and Hangman. You know, maybe I would have done some rearranging just because that's a tough spot to be in, to be between right before the main event and all this sort of stuff. I love Kenny Omega, love Chris Jericho. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think AEW could stand not having the Young Bucks around. I know that sounds crazy because, like, they're part of the elite and the fucking company is named after them, but, like, I don't know at this point, as the company has matured and we've gotten all this amount of talent coming in, we got even more talent coming in. I'll talk here shortly about Will Ospreay signing. What are the Young Bucks kind of giving you that you don't already have some form of, that they kind of have that's better, right? Like the crazy tag team spots. Well, we can get that with the Lucha Brothers, and the Lucha Brothers kind of look cooler, right? They got the mask. House of Black is a cooler act than the Young Bucks. So, I don't think the Young Bucks are going anywhere necessarily. But there were moments when I was watching Full Gear where I was like, man, I don't know. I could kind of do without them. Now, obviously, they are going to go into a heel run here. That's pretty obvious. But, yeah, babyface Young Bucks or just Young Bucks in general, I don't know. Maybe they just need some time away, Absence makes the heart grow fonder, so maybe they need to just step away from the screen and let some other guys take the reins here. Will Ospreay signing, absolutely fucking huge. And I'm so disappointed in both Corey and Steven on Wednesday's podcast. Steven called Ospreay a solid worker. A solid worker? This dude is like one of the best, if not the best in the world right now. Like, this is a crazy signing for AEW. I don't really know why they announced it now. If he can't come in until January, I think that would have been a thing that you can like tease and really pop the crowd as Ospreay comes in to make a save or something like that. Like, if he's not going to wrestle in AEW, don't announce it right now. But if you're gonna, they announce it anyway, so it is what it is. But like, let's not undersell this guy, okay? He has become a massive star in Japan to the level of like Okada and the Tanahashi. Like, he's at that level over in Japan as a European dude. And then when you talk about Ospreay and AEW, let's not forget that just a few months ago, his match against Kenny Omega might have been the best AEW match we've ever seen. Okay? And he hasn't had that much time in AEW. He's only had a handful of matches. People knock this dude for his promo ability. Go back and watch his promo against Kenny Omega at the Wrestle Kingdom press conference. Like, this dude can talk. He's gotten a lot better. People still think of him as the flippy dippy dude doing the shit with Ricochet when he was like in his mid-20s. He has evolved. Physically, he's packed on a lot more muscle. His moveset has become more physical and more vicious. This dude has literally everything you want. I think this is a tremendous gift for AEW. They probably paid out the wazoo for him, and I think rightfully so. If you book this dude right, this dude is somebody who is completely unique in wrestling, and he's a dude you can build your company around. The same way that you have like foundational pillars with MJF and Swerve Strickland and all the Kenny Omega, all these guys, Ospreay's of that level. Ospreay is going to come in, and I'm not going to say you're going to catapult him to the main event scene right away, but he will be somebody who has that AEW championship around his waist sooner rather than later, I think, because he is such a big star and he's so good in the ring. His work rate is top notch that he's not going to be able, you're not going to be able to keep him down for long. And then we got MJF and Jay White. Listen, this thing was convoluted as fuck for no reason. The booking of it was just, I don't know why you do the leg injury. It kind of makes no sense. Like, I get that MJF is playing on like this old school 80s baby face, and that's a very old school thing to do, right? The baby face comes back from the hospital or injury to defend his title and beat the bad guy, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You just didn't have to do it. You didn't have to do it at all. And also, if you were going to do it, the way you did it was the worst possible way to do it, right? Like, it makes no sense to have Adam Cole try to defend this title and have nobody stop him. Like, he's in a fucking walking boot. He can't. There's no way that this guy could be medically cleared. Like, if you were going to do the MJF injury, the way to do it is to have, and they had this segment, and this is what I thought they were going to do. Tony Schiavone calls off. He brings out Jay White with the championship. Jay White says, listen, MJF can't go. He's in the hospital. I'm the real champion. And then you had Adam Cole come out. and Adam Cole was going to take his place. You could have just had Tony Khan then come out and say, Adam, you are not physically cleared to compete. You cannot defend another person's single title. Like, unfortunately, our new AEW World Champion is Jay White. Boom, Jay White holds the title. Fuck, Adam Cole is distraught, right? And then at the end of the show, you have Jay White come out. He's going to do a victory lap with the guns. Like, hey, I know all you guys wanted to see me kick the shit out of MJF tonight, but like, guess what? He can't even be here. I'm the new champion. Then you have the ambulance come in, and MJF is going to make his return and defend his title. And Tony says, hey, listen, if MJF says he can go, if Doc Samson says he can go, we're going to have this main event match. We're going to have it tonight. We're doing it right now. Then, boom, now you get right back into it. And you can avoid all this shit with Adam Cole, or you just don't do the leg injury to begin with. The match quality itself, though, between these two guys, I thought was absolutely fantastic. We kind of grade AEW on these matches on like a little bit of a curve. And maybe it's unfair, but AEW has lived up to that billing. And like, if LA Knight and Roman Reigns, I'm just talking about the matches, right? The match itself, all the movesets. If LA Knight and Roman Reigns would have had that exact same match move for move at Crown Jewel, we would have been talking about that Crown Jewel match between LA Knight and Roman Reigns, and we would have said, was that a match of the year contender? It's just when it comes to AEW, like I said, they get graded on a curve. This is not the best MJF match we've seen in AEW. It's not the best Jay White match we've seen in AEW. And that's why I think some of the fans were a little bit divisive on it. And obviously the booking on top of it, right, with the leg injury, which is kind of all over the place. And I think it's a cardinal sin for you to go off this Full Gear pay-per-view and not have any mention of the devil whatsoever. Like, he didn't pop up on screen. He didn't pop up in person. And I think, again, it was a missed opportunity because, the only people who have talked about Adam Cole being the devil are fans. Like, nobody within AEW and the kayfabe of the show has brought up Adam Cole's name as being the devil. The only person that has been brought up as potentially being the devil is MJF, right? Roderick Strong has said it. Some other people on that program have said, like Jay White has said, listen, you're not fooling me with your little spooky mask. You're the guy behind the mask. And so again, I think from just a storytelling perspective, even if the plan is to have Adam Cole be the devil, you got to have the henchmen come out at the end of Full Gear. You got to have somebody in the devil mask come out, and you got to have commentary play up like, holy shit, the devil is here. We thought it was MJF. It's clearly not MJF. It's clearly not like they got their sights set on MJF. And then if the devil is Adam Cole, if that's what you want to do, you can easily pull it off as like the devil takes off the mask at some point in the next couple weeks, and it's Kyle O'Reilly. But oh shit, Adam Cole's in the ring too, and he hands the fucking devil mask to Adam Cole or whatever after they fucked MJF over. You can do it all kinds of ways, but to have the pay-per-view go off and not have any mention of the devil whatsoever, that's the last possible thing you can do. And this is where a writing team comes in to help tie up some loose ends. Tony needs a writing team, needs a booking committee. We've said that from the get-go. This was evidence, again, to the fact that that's what needs to happen. But again, like I said, when we talk about Full Gear 2023, there's one match we're going to be talking about. And it's Hangman Adam Page versus Swerve Strickland, Texas Death Match. This was phenomenal. I think this was an all-timer. Your mileage may vary on the viciousness of the match and the hardcore aspect of the match. But in this scenario, the links that these two guys were going to in the ring made sense because we had the story behind it. These two men want to destroy each other. Swerve wants to destroy Hangman because he wants Hangman's spot and thinks Hangman is undeserving of his place in AEW. Hangman wants to kill Swerve because this motherfucker broke in his house and threatened his family. And so when you take the story of it and you combine it with the viciousness of it, you combine it with these two guys trying to destroy each other, you get something special. Obviously, is it disgusting to watch one man drink another man's blood? Yes. I also thought it was pretty fucking metal and pretty fucking badass. So it popped me big time. I thought the cinder block spots were well done. the barbed wire wrapping around their faces. Like, it was gory. It made you squeamish, but that's kind of the point. And like I said, matching all that with the story behind it, I thought this was like absolutely just top notch for me. This is going to be a match that I will remember and probably watch again. I don't know what that says about me. Maybe I'm just a sick person. It's good too that we got Hangman in this kind of spot, because people forget Hangman's one of the best wrestlers in the world. Okay, the only thing that we've ever really had a problem with in this podcast is the way Hangman is presented, is the way he's booked. When the bright lights come on and that dude gets in the ring, I mean, he is one of the best in the world. I mean, think back to about his matches he had with Bryan Danielson, with Omega, now here with Swerve Strickland. I mean, yeah, when the guy's called on to perform at a high level, he knocks it out of the park. And then with Swerve Strickland, obviously he gets the win in this match. You know, there are moments in wrestling history that you can kind of look back on and be like, okay, in this match, this person took it to another level and became a superstar. Just off the top of my head, like Ric Flair's first NWA title win against Harley Race. When you go back and watch that match, you can see Ric Flair take it up to another level, and he goes up another level in the fans' eyes. Ric Flair and Sting, where they wrestle to the draw, and everyone points to that as like, oh, that's the moment Sting became a superstar. This is the moment Swerve became a bona fide star in wrestling in AEW. And I would strap the fucking rocket ship to this guy's back and push him all the way up to the top of the card. Like, in my eyes right now, Swerve Strickland should be the guy that beats MJF for the World Heavyweight title literally next month. Like no joke. At World's End, I would have a lot of things culminate at World's End. I would have the reveal of the Devil fucking over MJF and all this stuff. But I would have the main event in that be MJF versus Swerve Strickland for the AEW World title. That's how much of a legend and a legendary performance I think Swerve Strickland gave at Full Gear. I mean, I've talked about it before. There is nobody like this dude in wrestling. A hip-hop supervillain persona is something we've never seen before. He pulls it off so well. I love the inclusion of Prince Nana as like his comedic side guy, because it brings a little bit of levity. Because there's no levity with this new Swerve character. I mean, that guy has stone cold killer eyes, and the Prince Nana dance is just the right amount of like things to balance it out. It's great. You know, your inclusion of Brian Cage in this match, you know, maybe we could have done without that, but Swerve, man, absolute legend. And I'll leave you guys with this. I think after what Swerve did at Full Gear, if you're Tony Khan and you actually don't know who the Devil is going to be, like maybe you want it to be Adam Cole, but maybe this Adam Cole injury is going to linger on for too long, and maybe he can't get physical until then. You don't want to string this thing out, and you don't want it to be MJF. I think you have to have a real conversation as to whether or not it should be revealed that the Devil is Swerve Strickland, and has somehow had his sights on MJF and that title, and has been pulling some strings behind the scenes with this character. I don't know if they go down that route. But listen, if you have a faction and it's Brian Cage and it's Swerve, and he has, Swerve has lackeys like Wardlow and Daniel Garcia and all these guys who have kind of had their eyes set on MJF, and they've all kind of rallied behind Swerve as the guy who is going to take that title off MJF. I think that's a good move. I don't know if it's the best move. I still think Adam Cole's the best, but we don't know about that injury. How legit is that injury? Adam Cole's injury could all legit be a work. But if it's serious, boy, I think you got to have that conversation. What if we put Swerve Strickland behind that devil mask? How do we go from there? Because I think, listen, if you are looking at stars in that company after Saturday night, Mr. Strickland's got to be up there. This is his house, and we're all just living in it at this point. I mean, that is a star-making performance, and I can't say enough good things about that guy. And, yeah, he should be world champion by the end of 2023 in my eyes. But that's all I got for you guys. A little bit longer than what I thought, but yeah, I just want to get my thoughts out. We have Survivor Series coming up this weekend, and we'll be on the podcast to talk about big War Games matches for both the men and the women. So, yeah, we'll have it all for you like always, and I appreciate y'all tuning in to the Alabama Slam podcast, and I'll catch you next week.